As I was speaking to a friend yesterday on the phone, it came to a realization that people give the enemy more power and more credit than what he deserves. Anytime a piece of technology like in church goes down, it's, oh, you know who's behind it? The enemy's behind it. I remember one time as a kid, my mom was on the phone with her friend, and they were talking about God, they were talking about godly things, and the phone line went completely down. And when they got back on the phone with each other, it was the enemy. The enemy must have done it. And in reality, it was my brother pulling the plug on the phone. Like literally pulled the jack from the wall and unplugged the phone. Now, the enemy could have enticed and tempted my brother to do that, but my brother made the choice to pull the plug from the wall. And there are a lot of things like technology just fails. That is a known given fact that no matter what, we know technology fails. When we look in the Bible, we are shown a very limited amount of power that Satan actually has on this earth. Okay. In Job, we see twice when Satan is allowed to test Job that he sends armies of people to come and destroy Job's family, destroy Job's crops. Because one of the ways that the enemy moves is through tempting and enticing others to do his will. He cannot physically do this stuff. He has to work through another human being. That human being makes a choice to go and do the work of Satan. So it could be another human being doing it, and we still have to hold that human being responsible for even making the choice to do Satan's will in the first place, because they can tell him no. We also see in the first chapter, the people go, a fire of God fell from heaven and destroyed everything. I escaped to tell you. Now, when I was thinking about that, we do see in the Bible that it's only the only time fire falls from heaven is with God. Satan can't make fire fall from heaven. But we also have to recognize back then, they didn't know who Satan was. We didn't know who Satan was until Jesus came on this earth and started telling us about the enemy. So when thinking about it, I was wondering if it was a natural disaster, like lightning happened and fire broke out from that lightning and it was destructive. So I went into the Hebrew and they even said it was possibly lightning when it came to Job. The thing is when these natural disasters fall, we can either be protected from them or they can be a destructive force that destroys everything we have. Now, when we're under God, usually we have that barrier of protection around us. But remember that God took it away to allow Satan to test Job. So instead, it was it was destructive in nature. The only other power that we see in the Bible that Satan has is over our health. So in the second book of Job, it talks about how Satan struck Job with boils. And then later on in the Bible, it talks about how a woman, a daughter of Abraham, so a child of God, had been bound by Satan physically with her physical body for 13 years. So why do we give Satan so much credit and so much other stuff? He does not have the power that we tend to give him. From what I have seen, and for the power that he does have, it's almost like we have to give him permission to use that power. We have to accept it in order for him to use it. One good example is when something physically happens to us. Sometimes it literally is a physical instance, but what does the enemy do? He plays with your mind on it. So recently we had some emergencies with my son, and he was in the hospital twice. During that time, the enemy hit really hard. And the enemy intentionally did that in order to try to make us lose our peace, to sway us from the truth of what was going on. But he himself was not touching my son's body. The root of the issue of my son's health stemmed from a gene, a hereditary thing that he had gained from his father. But the way that the enemy decided to place himself in the situation was to mess with our minds, that it could possibly be the demonic doing this to my son, and it was strong. So my son wasn't coming out of a complete sleep, like completely coming out of his sleep-like state. He was sleepwalking and he was seeing hallucinations. Okay. So, automatically it was a demon, like the thoughts being placed in multiple people's minds, and whereas it's demonic, it's bothering him. One of the things that was bothering me was the fact that, like, a thought from the enemy was that the doctors were going to think that he has some kind of mental illness that I know for a fact he doesn't have. My son is of sound mind when it comes to that, but the first thing they're going to think is he has some kind of mental illness. And that was all the enemy just trying to make us lose our peace. When we were in the actual hospital getting it checked out, God brought back something that my ex-husband had told me when we were together. That when he started going into puberty, he started getting severe migraines because the doctor started thinking that he was having a seizure in the middle of the night, and it just continued to affect him later on. It was like an after effect. But when this migraine thing came up in my mind, I was like, I wonder, migraines do really weird things. I've had them. They do really weird things. So I talked to the doctor about it. I'm like, because these hallucinations are not coming up on their own, just randomly throughout the day, right? It's like he never wakes up from his sleep. It's more of like a dreamlike state. And then it continues to bother him. It's like he never comes out of it. But once we got him put on a maintenance medication for migraines, it all stopped. All of it, including, apparently he was having severe migraines in school, didn't know how to verbalize it. You could tell that he didn't feel well, but he couldn't verbalize that's what was going on. He didn't understand that's what was going on. So now that we have him on a maintenance medication, he's changed into a completely different boy. But see, everybody gives credit to the enemy at those times. They'll go, oh, the enemy is playing with this person. The enemy is doing this. We literally boost Satan higher than what he deserves. He's under our feet. He has no power. So when something's going on, see if there could be a true physical root, and the enemy's just playing with your mind, wanting you to believe that it's him, wanting that glory in the moment. Just remember, in the Bible, God is the only one who has the power to manipulate physical things without anyone's permission. Handwriting on the wall, a supernatural handwriting on the wall. The manna falling from heaven, the fire at night to guide the Israelites. He didn't need anyone's permission for that. Satan, on the other hand, when you're talking about Ouija boards and stuff, yes, it gets manipulated, but they also have permission to do so. You have given them, as a human being, permission to move objects around because you have accepted it as okay. You have come into agreement with it. If you didn't do that, they wouldn't have permission to mess with you in that manner. Okay, so as a child of God, Jesus is within you. Wherever you walk is holy ground. That's, God showed me that at a church. Take off your shoes, Moses, for where you stand is holy ground. Wherever you go, you're on holy ground. Satan is an intruder. So if he continues to bother you, then it's because you are giving him that power somehow. You are giving him the authority to continue to bug you. He does not have the authority to do it without your permission. And a lot of people do this when lack of knowledge, just simply not knowing their identity and authority in Christ. So the first thing I would encourage any believer to do is to seek God and the Bible on what their true authority in Christ is. You don't have to be afraid because Jesus is always with you. You trample the enemy. He should not be trampling you. I'm going to make a second part and put it up tomorrow because there's more to this, that where we give Satan more credit than he deserves.